right? Coaches get reputations of being great postseason coaches. All they have to do is make it to the tourney, and they'll have their team more prepared. Well, yes, in-game, you can call a great timeout. You can make a great substitution. You can get out the little clipboard, whiteboard with the basketball court drawn on it already and draw up a great baseline inbounds play. Get yourself a bucket late in the game. But so much of coaching happens ahead of time. So much of that reputation by coaches is earned Tuesday, Wednesday, when you play on Thursday or Friday. So what can Hubert Davis win this week, today, tomorrow? Right? Whether they're traveling and he's, I'm sure in luxurious style, traveling with, iPads and laptops to watch all the film he could possibly think of, or even before they travel. First of all, if you need motivation from North Carolina or for North Carolina, which I don't think you do, they seem like a pretty internally motivated squad. But if you do, the sports books have UNC as a 4 or 5 point favorite, depending where you're looking. But ESPN's matchup predictor actually has them as the underdog. Gives Alabama a 52.3% chance to win the game. I don't know, haters, right? Doubters, whatever puts a chip on your shoulder.
Those darn computers.
Those numbers with algorithms and equations. So there you go, a little bit of motivation. You don't have to use it, just saying. But I'll give you this. This is where UNC is in a situation that they have not been in all year. They played a lot of different basketball teams. They played different styles. They've played everything from UVA to a high-scoring team that wants to get up and down. But this is the first time all year that R.J. Davis and UNC will face a team that has a player that averaged more per game, points scored, than R.J. Davis. Mark Sears for Alabama averages 21.5 points per game. R.J. Davis, the ACC Player of the Year, the All-American, right, the consensus first-team All-Conference player, averages 0.2 less, 21.3. Sears shoots a few less threes per game, but shoots a higher percentage and gets to the free throw line a few more times a game. He's a legitimate perimeter scorer, 6'1", but can fill it up. Does Hubert Davis turn this into a Seth Trimble day? Seth Trimble off the bench is definitely on par with anyone else they have as a perimeter defender. Probably their best.
Yes, he's their best.
Do you turn to him and say, all right, Seth? And by the way, Seth has made some big plays. We saw maybe the highlight of the ACC tournament from an individual athleticism play, a dunk he had going down the middle of the lane. We've seen him block shots despite not being the tallest guy in the world.
I think he had, 3 against Michigan State?
He's a rim protector, is what he said after the game.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a Seth Trimble day, and that would be a little bit of a shakeup. He does play minutes, but if you gave him the personal challenge of stopping Sears or slowing him down, that would be a shakeup from what we've seen UNC do. But here's where I think, Hubert really has to kind of dig into what he wants to do. Alabama's offense can go. It's not just Sears. They can flat out fill it up. It's their identity. Their defense, however, is the exact opposite. They let other teams go.
Yeah.
80-plus points allowed per game this season. North Carolina has to decide, right? Because I believe North Carolina has the perimeter players and the rebounders they can control the tempo a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying completely. You're not going to take Alabama and turn them into a 50-point per game team, but you can control the flow using R.J. Davis, Armando Bacot, using Withers and Ingram as secondary rebounders. You have guys that can go in there and limit possessions, and then you can either run it up the floor or you can walk it up the floor. Right? You can either run your half-court offense looking for a great shot, or you could try to get in transition and secondary transition. Is UNC comfortable getting into a shootout with Alabama? Or will they resist that? Will they try to drag it into the mud and make Alabama uncomfortable, even if it makes UNC uncomfortable a little bit?
Yeah, their identity is to push the pace.
There's something to be said for it'll make us uncomfortable, but it'll make them more uncomfortable, right? Because UNC is a much better defensive team than Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
That could be the decision that decides the outcome, right? Because if you go into it saying we're going to beat Alabama at their own game, I mean, Alabama, you might do it because you have your own flamethrowers, you have your own big scores, you have your own ammunition to use. But at the same time, Alabama's not going to be uncomfortable in that. They're like, oh, cool, you want to get up and down? You want to run? You want to try to turn this into a score fest? Let's see who makes the most shots. Flip side, you could almost do exactly what Dennis was warning about in an earlier segment, which is you could outthink yourself and say, oh, we're gonna make Alabama so uncomfortable without realizing how uncomfortable it's going to make you too, right? It's like, oh, we're going to make Mark Sears so off his rhythm, and then you could make RJ Davis off his rhythm, and you're like, oh, wait a second, that's not what I was intending here. So it's really about knowing your team, right? It's about knowing how good are they at playing the different styles. Because I'll give you this, the ACC, we talked about it yesterday, has really made all of us that are championing the ACC look pretty darn smart in the tournament thus far. Four teams make the round of 64, all four still alive in the Sweet 16. You look at the Big Ten, they had a whole bunch of teams in. 2 made the Sweet 16. You look at the SEC, they had 8 teams tied for the most to make the tournament. 2 make the Sweet 16. One of the reasons I'm seeing described by analysts and experts is the ACC is the Goldilocks.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is the Big Ten, physical, right? They're like talent, finesse, punching you in the face.
No, thank you.
SEC is like talent, finesse. We want to score a bunch. We want to get up and down.
They can't play in the half court.
Physical, we just got punched in the face.
Yeah.
The ACC is Goldilocks. They're like, cool, you want to speed it up? We got you. We played against the Wake Forests and the schools that want to go get up and down and score a bunch of points. Oh, you want to drag it down into the mud? We played against UVA, right? We've done it all to get here. So is that the advantage? Is UNC saying we're more comfortable being uncomfortable coming from where we came from, so let's turn this what everyone's going to bet the over on, UNC Alabama, where everybody thinks there's all these scorers, there's RJ Davis, there's Sears, they both average XYZ points, and let's turn it into a muddy game played in quicksand, because the SEC doesn't like doing that, but we have to occasionally because we're going to play the teams in the ACC that want to do it that way. It's another option that Hubert Davis has to decide, and it's another way that a decision you make like Tuesday afternoon where you look to your assistants and say, hey, let's make sure they're ready for this type of game, could end up being the difference between winning and playing in the Elite Eight or going home and saying, why did we try to outscore Alabama? We're the better defensive team. It's that's why you get paid the big bucks, Hubert. That's why you get the cool shoes.
You might be able to balance it both, because with their physicality on defense and their aggressiveness, especially when they're rebounding, you can actually force Alabama to play frantic because they're trying to push through all that, but you in turn can still play fast. Mm-hmm. Like there's a difference between playing fast and playing frantic. There's a difference between the two.
You start getting into like the Mr. Miyagi sayings, be fast, don't hurry.
Well, yeah, there's a legit difference between the two. And I remember when I was coaching, I was instilling that same type thing, is that you can cause Alabama with you playing tough defense and getting transition buckets. They feel like we have to match every single possession, hence why they start playing frantic.
I mean, you tell me how to get anybody playing frantic, I'm going to say that's a good plan.
Yeah.
You get them frazzled, skittish, whatever the word is that you used to describe it, I'm gonna like your chances.